Welcome to The Explainer. We're here to take big, complex ideas from source material and make them clear and dynamic. Today, we are diving into a really foundational concept in Christian theology, the Holy Spirit.
So, I want you to imagine something. Picture a leader, someone you've built your whole life around for years, who suddenly announces they're leaving. It's got to create this huge vacuum, right? A crisis of, what do we do now? Well, that is the exact situation our source text drops us into today. And right there, in the face of all that uncertainty, this is the promise that was given to that group of followers. It introduces this new figure, meant to fill that void, a concept that is absolutely central to Christian belief, the Holy Spirit, who is called an advocate right here.
So to really get our heads around this, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll set the stage with that initial crisis. Then, we're going to look at three really distinct jobs of this advocate. And finally, we'll see how the whole promise was said to have been fulfilled.
Okay, let's dive right into that moment of crisis. The disciples, they're facing the fact that their leader, Jesus, is about to leave. And the text describes them as being just terrified and totally unsure of what's coming next. Now, the source text explains that this advocate, or paraclete in the original Greek, wasn't just a stand-in, like a substitute teacher. This role had a very specific multi-layered purpose, to take them to a deeper understanding and give them the divine strength they'd need for the road ahead. This was a strategic continuation, not just a simple replacement.
So that brings us to the first of those big purposes. Because when you're in the middle of chaos, fear, and you know persecution is coming, what's the first thing you need? Comfort.
And according to the text, this isn't just about a pat on the back to make you feel better. It's about providing this lasting sense of God's presence. This role was absolutely foundational because it directly addressed the disciples' feelings of being abandoned and their fear of what they were going to face all alone.
The source material makes a really sharp distinction here. It talks about the peace the world gives, the kind that's fleeting, that depends on your circumstances being good. But the peace offered by the Comforter, well, that's presented as something totally different. It's internal, it's supernatural, it's a peace that can actually defy logic and whatever chaos is happening on the outside.
All right, let's move on to the second role, and you'll see how it builds on the first one, the Holy Spirit as a teacher. So, after giving them that foundation of comfort, the very next step was to deepen their understanding.
This teaching role, it's described as a kind of internal illuminator. It's like someone flipping a switch inside your mind. The idea is that it guides believers into a deeper truth and provides this moral clarity, things that apparently their direct experience hadn't fully given them yet.
What's so striking about this verse is the timing. It suggests that even after 3 whole years of getting direct instruction from their leader, face to face, the disciples still needed another guide to really get it. It implies that some truths just required a different, more internal kind of revelation to sink in.
So the source breaks this teaching job down into a pretty clear 3-step process. First, guidance into truth. Second, what it calls conviction, that internal gut check about right and wrong. And third, a much deeper revelation of the nature of their leader, Jesus, who had just left.
And to explain this, the source gives this fantastic, relatable analogy. Think about a marriage. The way you know your spouse in year 20 is worlds different from how you knew them in year 3, right? It's deeper. In the same way, the Spirit's teaching is shown as this progressive revelation over time, not just a one-time info dump.
So we've got comfort to get them steady and teaching to guide them. The third purpose described in the text is empowerment, and this was for a very specific mission.
And listen, this isn't just about feeling strong on the inside. The source is super clear that this empowerment is about getting a supernatural ability to do specific things, to be effective witnesses. It's about being equipped for an external job. This quote from the book of Acts, which comes right after the Gospels, just connects all the dots. It explicitly links the arrival of the Spirit with receiving power. And for what? For a purpose, to spread their message from right where they were to the ends of the earth.
So what was the tangible result of this empowerment? Well, on the day of Pentecost, when the Spirit is said to have finally arrived, the text says a single sermon led to 3,000 people converting. That's presented as direct, undeniable proof of this new supernatural power in action.
And this power wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. The source describes it showing up in a huge variety of gifts, equipping all different kinds of people for different roles, from public speaking and healing to simple acts of service and even artistic expression, all as part of this one big collective mission.
Okay, let's tie this all together now. We're going to look at how the source presents the fulfillment of this whole story, connecting that initial promise to the final outcome.
This timeline really summarizes the whole arc of the story perfectly. It starts with the promise made in that moment of crisis in the Gospel of John, moves through this period of just waiting, and then, boom, the ultimate fulfillment and the birth of the early church in the book of Acts. And all of that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. Within this theological framework, one that promises an internal source of comfort, guidance, and ability, the big question still remains: how is this promise of presence, truth, and power understood, and maybe even experienced by believers in our world today?